depending on where you are in the world, owning the wrong object can turn an ordinary item into contraband. Some are dangerous, some are bizarre, and some make absolutely no sense at all. From children's candy to restricted technology, these are 20 surprisingly illegal things from around the world. This chocolate egg is one of the most ordinary-looking sweets you'll ever see. But for years it was actually illegal in the United States. The reason isn't the chocolate itself, it's what's inside. U.S. consumer safety laws prohibit non-edible objects being fully enclosed within food products. And because Kinder Surprise eggs contain a small toy hidden inside the chocolate shell, they were classified as a safety risk. The concern was that children could accidentally swallow the toy, since it's completely sealed inside the candy. As a result, importing or selling them in the U.S. was banned, and in some cases, they were even confiscated at the border. Meanwhile, in most of Europe and much of the world, Kinder eggs are completely normal, something people grow up with from childhood without a second thought. So what seems like an innocent chocolate treat in one country becomes a prohibited item in another, all because of how different governments define safety. At first glance, poppy seeds seem completely harmless. They're found on bagels, pastries, and baked goods all over the world. But in certain countries, something as simple as this topping can actually cause serious legal problems. The issue comes from the opium poppy plant. While the seeds themselves contain only trace amounts, they can sometimes be contaminated or carry residual compounds that are linked to controlled substances. Because of this, some countries have strict regulations or outright bans on importing, selling, or even carrying poppy seeds across borders. In parts of the Middle East and Asia, travelers have been detained after carrying food items containing poppy seeds, even when they were bought legally in their home country. What makes this so unusual is the contrast. In one place, it's just a breakfast topping. In another, it can trigger customs inspections, fines, or serious suspicion. A simple ingredient, treated very differently depending on where you are in the world. From food items, we now move into something designed for personal protection, but which can still be heavily restricted depending on where you are. Pepper spray is commonly carried as a self-defense tool in many parts of the world, especially in situations where people want a non-lethal way to protect themselves. However, in countries such as the United Kingdom and parts of Europe, it is classified as a prohibited weapon for civilians. Possession can lead to serious legal consequences, even if it's carried purely for personal safety. In contrast, in places like the United States, it is widely available and often sold in sporting goods stores or online with minimal restriction. This creates a strange divide. Something marketed as protection in one country can be treated as an illegal weapon in another, depending entirely on local law. In some parts of the world, even owning a particular breed of dog can be restricted by law. Few examples are more controversial than pit bull-type dogs. Supporters argue that a dog's behavior depends largely on training and ownership, while critics point to concerns over attacks and public safety. As a result, some countries and regions have introduced breed-specific legislation, restricting ownership, breeding, importation, or transfer of certain dogs based primarily on their appearance or classification. The debate has continued for decades. Animal welfare groups, dog owners, and lawmakers often disagree on whether these laws improve safety or simply target specific breeds without addressing irresponsible ownership. Whatever side of the argument people fall on, it's a reminder that legality isn't always about the object itself. Sometimes it can extend to the animals people choose to keep as companions. From dangerous dogs, we move to one of the most heavily regulated categories of items in the world: bladed articles. While most people think of knives as simple everyday tools, many countries have strict rules on what types can be owned, carried, imported, or sold. In the United Kingdom, for example, certain knives such as zombie knives, disguised knives, and some automatic opening designs are prohibited altogether. Even seemingly ordinary pocket knives can fall under different rules depending on their design. A small folding knife may be legal to carry under specific conditions, while a locking knife of a similar size could require a lawful reason for possession. These laws continue to evolve. Following several high-profile incidents and ongoing public debate, questions have recently been raised about existing exemptions and how knife legislation should be applied in the future. What often surprises people is just how specific these laws can be. The legality of a knife may depend not only on its size, but also its design, opening mechanism, intended use, and even where it's being carried. Laser pointers are commonly used in classrooms, presentations, and even by amateur astronomers. Most are perfectly legal and pose little risk when used responsibly. However, high-powered lasers are a very different story. In several countries, restrictions have been introduced on the sale, importation, or possession of lasers above certain power levels due to safety concerns. The reason is simple. Even a handheld laser can travel enormous distances. Over the years, incidents involving aircraft, vehicles, and eye injuries have led regulators to treat some lasers as more than just harmless gadgets. As technology has become cheaper and more powerful, governments around the world have continued to update regulations in an effort to balance legitimate uses with public safety. And while some items become restricted because they're considered dangerous, others are restricted because they're designed to protect you. A taser is a conducted energy device designed to temporarily incapacitate a person using an electrical charge delivered through probes or direct contact. Many modern models are advertised as producing between 20,000 and 50,000 volts, allowing the charge to pass through clothing and disrupt muscle control for a short period. Because of this capability, tasers are often issued to police as a less lethal alternative to firearms. However, concerns over injuries, misuse, and potential medical complications have led many countries to classify them as prohibited or highly restricted weapons. As a result, civilian ownership is banned or heavily restricted in several parts of the world, with possession often limited to law enforcement or specially authorized users. Like many items on this list, a taser that may be legal in one country can be completely prohibited in another, depending on local laws and regulations. When most people hear the word radioactive, they think of nuclear reactors or highly dangerous materials that are completely banned. But in reality, radioactive substances exist in a range of everyday and historical items, many of which are still found in circulation. For example, uranium glass was once popular in decorative bowls and ornaments. It contains trace amounts of uranium, which gives it a distinctive glow under ultraviolet light. Similarly, older radium watches and clocks used radioactive paint on their dials to make them glow in the dark, many of which are now considered hazardous antiques. In modern use, radioactive materials still appear in items like smoke detectors, which contain small amounts of americium-241, and certain medical and scientific equipment where controlled radiation is essential. Because of the risks associated with exposure, these materials are heavily regulated. In many countries, consumer sale of radium-based products is banned, uranium handling is strictly controlled, and even possession of certain isotopes requires licensing or specialized storage conditions. While some low-level sources can still be legally owned or encountered, anything involving higher concentrations or unsecured radioactive material is tightly controlled or outright prohibited. The difference often comes down to the type of isotope, the quantity involved, and how safely it can be contained. While most phones rely on nearby cell towers, satellite phones work very differently. Instead of connecting to local networks, they communicate directly with satellites orbiting the Earth, allowing them to function in remote deserts, mountains, oceans, and other areas where normal mobile coverage doesn't exist. For emergency responders, explorers, and sailors, this can be an invaluable lifeline. However, the same technology has also raised concerns among governments because satellite phones can operate independently of domestic telecommunications networks. As a result, some countries have heavily restricted or even prohibited their use. Authorities have cited reasons ranging from national security and surveillance concerns to the difficulty of monitoring communications that bypass local infrastructure. For travelers, this can create an unusual situation. A device designed to improve safety in one country may require special permission, registration, or even be prohibited entirely in another. What makes satellite phones so interesting is that they're not restricted because they're dangerous, but because of what they allow people to do: communicate almost anywhere on Earth, beyond the reach of traditional networks. Not all restricted technology looks advanced. In fact, some of the most controversial devices are small enough to fit in a pocket. One example is the Flipper Zero, a handheld multi-tool designed for security testing and interacting with various wireless technologies. Depending on the system involved, devices like these can communicate with RFID cards, NFC chips, infrared signals, radio frequencies, and other forms of electronic access control. Supporters argue that tools like this are valuable for learning about cybersecurity, testing personal systems, and understanding how modern technology works. However, critics have raised concerns that the same features could potentially be misused to interact with devices without permission. Because of these concerns, some governments, organizations, and retailers have placed restrictions on their sale, importation, or use. In certain countries, similar devices may attract additional scrutiny from customs officials or law enforcement. The device itself is not inherently illegal in most places. Instead, the legality often depends on how it is used and whether it is being used to access systems without authorization. Like lockpicks, these tools occupy a legal gray area where ownership may be permitted, but misuse can quickly lead to serious consequences. If you've made it this far, there's a good chance you're finding at least some of these items as surprising as I did. If you'd like to see more videos exploring unusual laws and strange facts from around the world, consider subscribing. While some items are restricted because of what they can do, others are protected because of what they are. Our next item isn't a modern invention at all. It's millions of years old. Dinosaur fossils are among the most valuable scientific discoveries ever made, helping researchers understand life on Earth long before humans existed. But in many countries, fossils are considered part of the nation's natural heritage and cannot be freely collected, exported, or sold. As a result, some of the most famous fossil discoveries are protected by strict laws. In countries such as Mongolia and China, dinosaur fossils are heavily regulated, and attempts to remove them from the country without permission can result in confiscation or criminal charges. These laws exist because fossils are more than just collectibles. Scientists view them as important pieces of history that can provide valuable information about extinct species, ancient ecosystems, and the evolution of life itself. This has created a long-running debate between private collectors, museums, and governments over who should own and preserve these rare discoveries. A fossil may look like nothing more than an old bone, but in some parts of the world it can be considered a protected national treasure. If dinosaur fossils can be protected by law, it may not come as a surprise that human bones and skeletal remains are also heavily regulated in many parts of the world. Throughout history, human remains have been collected by museums, universities, medical schools, and even private individuals. Some antique skeletons and anatomical specimens still exist today, particularly those produced for medical education during the 19th and early 20th centuries. However, modern laws surrounding human remains are often far stricter. Many countries regulate the sale, transportation, importation, and display of human bones due to ethical concerns, cultural sensitivities, and the need to respect the deceased. This can create unusual situations where an antique medical skeleton may be legal to own in one jurisdiction, while buying, selling, or importing similar remains could be heavily restricted elsewhere. Museums and researchers continue to study human remains to learn about history, disease, and ancient civilizations. But outside of those settings, ownership and trade are often subject to strict legal controls. Unlike most collectibles, these are not simply objects. They were once part of a living person, which is why many governments treat them very differently from other historical artifacts. Not every restricted item comes from a museum or archaeological site. Some can be found much closer to home, sometimes even in your refrigerator. Raw milk, also known as unpasteurized milk, is milk that has not undergone the heat treatment process used to kill potentially harmful bacteria. For centuries, this was the only way people consumed milk, but modern food safety standards have changed how it is regulated. Supporters argue that raw milk retains its natural flavor and traditional qualities, while critics point to the risk of contamination from bacteria such as Salmonella, E. coli, and Listeria. Because of these concerns, laws vary significantly around the world. In some countries, raw milk can be sold freely, while in others its sale is heavily restricted or prohibited altogether. Similar debates exist around certain traditional cheeses and dairy products that are made using unpasteurized milk. The result is a surprising legal divide. A dairy product that is perfectly normal in one country may be difficult or even illegal to sell in another, all because of different approaches to food safety and public health. It's a reminder that not every restricted item is considered dangerous by everyone. Sometimes the disagreement comes down to balancing tradition against regulation. While some governments regulate what people eat, others are more concerned about what people buy. Counterfeit goods are one of the most commonly seized items at borders around the world. From luxury handbags and designer clothing to watches, trainers, and electronics, counterfeit products are often manufactured to imitate well-known brands at a fraction of the cost. To many buyers, they may appear harmless. However, governments and manufacturers argue that counterfeit goods can damage businesses, mislead consumers, and in some cases even pose safety risks when products fail to meet required standards. As a result, many countries have strict laws against the importation, sale, and distribution of counterfeit items. Customs agencies regularly seize large shipments, and travelers have occasionally found themselves in trouble for bringing fake branded goods across international borders. What makes this category particularly interesting is that two products can appear almost identical, yet one may be perfectly legal, while the other is considered an intellectual property violation. A bargain purchase on holiday might seem like a harmless souvenir, but in some circumstances it could become an expensive mistake. Counterfeit products may imitate expensive technology, but our next item is the real thing. Night vision devices allow users to see in extremely low light conditions by amplifying available light, or, in some cases, detecting heat signatures. Originally developed for military use, the technology has since found applications in law enforcement, wildlife observation, security, and outdoor activities. Because of their military origins, some night vision devices are subject to strict export controls and regulations. Governments are often less concerned about ownership itself and more concerned about advanced models being transferred to unauthorized individuals, organizations, or foreign countries. This has led to situations where a device may be perfectly legal to own domestically, but heavily restricted when it comes to export, resale, or international transport. As the technology has become more affordable, civilian access has increased, but many governments continue to treat certain high-performance systems as sensitive equipment. The result is an unusual category of item that sits somewhere between consumer electronics and military technology, depending on its capabilities. While some technologies are restricted because of what they allow people to access, our next item is designed specifically to bypass one of the most common security devices in the world: locks. Lockpicks are simple tools used to manipulate the internal components of a lock without a key. They are commonly used by locksmiths, security professionals, and hobbyists interested in learning how locks work. The controversy comes from the fact that the same tools can also be used to gain unauthorized access to property. Because of this, many countries regulate lockpicks differently. In some places, ownership is perfectly legal, while in others, possession may become an offense if there is evidence of criminal intent. This creates an unusual legal situation where the tool itself may not be prohibited, but the circumstances surrounding its possession can make all the difference. Supporters argue that lockpicking is a legitimate skill used for training, security testing, and emergency access. Critics point out that the tools can also be used to defeat physical security systems if they fall into the wrong hands. As with many items on this list, the legality often depends less on what the object is and more on how it is intended to be used. While lockpicks are controversial because they can bypass security, our next item is controversial for the opposite reason. It's designed to stop harm rather than cause it. Body armor has been used for centuries in one form or another, but modern ballistic vests are designed to protect the wearer from threats such as gunfire, shrapnel, and other impacts. Today, they're commonly used by police officers, military personnel, security teams, and journalists working in dangerous environments. Because body armor is defensive equipment, many people assume it's legal everywhere. However, laws can vary significantly depending on the country and the type of armor involved. Some governments restrict civilian ownership of certain types of body armor, while others regulate who can purchase it, import it, or wear it in public. Authorities have argued that unrestricted access could allow criminals to better resist law enforcement or increase risks during violent incidents. Supporters, on the other hand, view body armor as a legitimate means of personal protection, particularly for people working in high-risk professions. As a result, body armor occupies an unusual legal position. It's designed to save lives, yet in some parts of the world, its ownership and use remain subject to strict regulation. Many of the items on this list are physical objects, but restrictions don't always apply to things you can hold in your hands. Over the years, a number of video games have faced bans, censorship, or heavy modification in different parts of the world. The reasons have varied from violence and gambling mechanics to political content, historical imagery, and cultural sensitivities. One game might be released unchanged in one country, while another version is altered, delayed, or prohibited entirely elsewhere. In some cases, developers have even created special regional editions to comply with local regulations. These restrictions have sparked debate for decades. Supporters argue that governments have a responsibility to regulate harmful content, while critics view many of these measures as censorship. The result is a fascinating reminder that legality isn't always about physical objects. Sometimes it's information, media, and entertainment that become the focus of regulation. And few industries have experienced that more often than video games. As we've seen throughout this video, legality often depends less on what an item is and more on where you happen to be standing. Something perfectly ordinary in one country may be heavily restricted in another. Other surprisingly restricted items around the world include Cuban cigars, fireworks, plastic bags, and even chewing gum. Whether it's a chocolate egg, a satellite phone, a dinosaur fossil, or a video game, one thing remains true: crossing a border can change the rules entirely. As always, thanks for watching.